Just wanted to throw a quick video together. I've seen a couple of guys on Facebook of late posting up asking about delta ring mods on the MKP and extended mag releases. This is stuff that I put together over the course of last year, over 2013. So I wanted to put a quick go through as to how I did it. It's certainly not the best way of doing it in the world, but it's just what I've put together. Just to throw it out there, see if it gives people any ideas. Probably come up with some better ways of doing it than I've done it, but this is what I've put together. This is the extended mag release that Milsig do. It's essentially just like a little cross piece. Acts like a little seesaw, if I can angle it a bit better so you can see. It literally just acts as a little seesaw. On this, it brings it really far close to the trigger, but I tend to find, if I scoot round, that trying to release the mag release normally, and that's pretty much where my finger sits normally, to reach where the mag release should be actually takes a rotation of your hand off the grip and just really bugs me. I don't know about anybody else, but it may just be me having silly titchy hands, but each to their own. I'll just want to give you a quick tear down of this. The annoying thing with this is because it doesn't run on a push pin, because it's just too thin and it's got to hold it fairly sturdy in place because it's only got the one hole supporting it. It has to use the longer nut that comes with the actual kit for this. It's not a huge amount. I don't know what the price is. I'll see if I can stick a link up in the description underneath for you to take a look at. I got it from Rap4 UK. Nice bunch of guys. They've always looked after me. So when you want to take this thing apart, it is a long, laborious process. So I will speed through it quickly and save you the task of having to watch it, just to give you a look as to what I've had to do chopping and cutting wise on the actual setup of this. So I'll take that apart and I'll skip back to this afterwards, and hopefully you won't have to put up with all the lengthy work. But that's essentially what we're looking at. Now when this comes initially, you'll notice I've had to chop a groove down there. That's so it sits neatly with the groove between the pistol grip and the mag well. I've also taken a little notch just along the top edge so it sits along the top of the body as well, because the idea of that is that this will rest up against that as well as along against the grip as well. Obviously with the bolt in the way you can't really see, but it then gives it a little bit more purchase to hold itself. Now if you just had it on loose with a push pin, that's going to rattle about all over the show, drive you insane and probably fall off inside of 5 minutes. So the way I had to do it was use a couple of little washers and supports and these groovy little nuts that come with like a rubber O-ring inside them to give them extra wedge. There's two in the pack that come in, so one's already on there because it provides an extra little spacer between the mag well itself and, if you can see on this, the way it's got this bit of a rise at the back end of it, so it needs that little bit of a wedge. If I flip the whole thing over, hopefully just show it a little bit better. Creates just a little bit of that wedge just as a spacer, just to hold everything firm, because once that's bolted on it's actually surprisingly firm. I've played numerous games with it on there now and it doesn't slip or slide or rotate or anything like that, which I thought it was going to, having only the one nut to hold it. I thought it was going to end up slipping down during games or coming loose or getting a bit of a rattle about it, but no problems with it at all. The other thing I kind of wanted to show you was the holes, because you'll notice on the underneath of this, that little spot of grey in there is from where I've had to fill in with putty the original holes from this. You may be able to see because of the lighting. It comes initially with two holes, one at the back, one right at the very front. Now in order to get this to fit properly, what I had to do was, it was a little bit longer than that. I just chopped the end off because it was a little bit too long for me, so I rounded it all off, made it a bit nicer and pretty. Filled that hole in with putty, and then this is all dremelled out. So literally one hole all the way through in the right place, another hole part the way through, but only about halfway, possibly slightly over halfway, just for that nut to sit into. Oh, I even lost the nut now, there it is. So that nut actually sits into that hole, just to give it a little bit more of a grip, sits nicer on the thread, and it also stops it from sticking out too far. Now the pain in the backside with this is because it's not a push pin. As you probably saw in the fast forward, I have to use both good old-fashioned Allen key for one side of it, which just holds that Allen key support in there, whilst having to turn the rest of it with a blooming nut thing. So it is a little bit of a pain in the backside taking the thing apart, but it's a trade-off. It makes it that much easier using mag releases, because I tended to find before I'd end up actually reaching around the mag and using my left hand to trigger the mag release, and that just gets really uncomfortable. It's not the most pleasant of things. The other thing I want to quickly run you through on here, because I might as well do it all in one video, is the D-ring mod. Somebody was mentioning this on Facebook a couple of days ago, that they were looking for a D-ring mod for the MKP. I haven't seen one out and about. I'd really like somebody to do one. I sent this idea off to the guys at Rap4 in the US when I did it, basically just to say that this is what I've done. It looks really, really simple to put together, and I think they could do a much better job with just a bit of metal working on it, make it a lot more precise. But this has held up surprisingly well for the past year. It hasn't come apart, hasn't rattled, disintegrated, anything else. You can probably make out it is the original Phenom front guard, hacked down, and then quite simply just a delta ring from pretty much anywhere. I got my delta ring mod up from a place in Greece that does like airsoft parts, and that's literally just epoxy welded straight onto the front of it. Took a little bit of cutting. There is a thread on the UK Scenario forum, and I think I copied it onto the X70G forums as well, as a little sort of photo by photo run through as how I did it step by step. So it's all on there if you want to see it all done piece in pieces. The other thing was there's a little ring that's to go on the front barrel, sits right behind the front sight, that has to hold the whole thing together. That, because the actual AR barrels from Airsofts aren't that much smaller than an actual paintball outer barrel, all it took was a little bit of adrenaline around the inside just to sand it down by a fraction of a millimetre, and it sits on there perfectly. If you've spotted it, the white on this, literally just a little trick that people tend to do with their real steel firearms, it's just literally a white crayon. Just rub it over there, lots of elbow grease of rubbing it in there, rubbing off the excess, and eventually it just brings it out in a nice white finish. That has not washed off at all in the year that I've been using it like that. I don't actually play all that often, to be fair, so that's literally only probably about half a dozen games. But yeah, other than that, everything else is pretty much as seen. Nothing too exciting, but nothing not too exciting. But anyway, if you've got any questions, hit me up. Just stick a message in the comments box underneath, or you can shoot me up on Facebook. And yeah, been a pleasure. Take care.